Hey everyone, it's Libby from maighstirtarot. I'd like to acknowledge the Warramai First Nations people, that's WORIMI, and welcome to you, your guides, my guides in the universal energies. Righto, today's Monday. I didn't see you on Friday, I had the day off. Oh man, did I have the day off? I don't even think I got out of my pajamas that day. Um, I was actually going to do a reading on Friday about, again, yes, we thrived another week, about thriving and surviving. And it was very much what I was going to do was I was going to talk about the fact of when I go to the beach and I go sea glass hunting, which one does when the low tide. So the secret is to get there right on low tide. So you get everything, you get to see what has just been exposed. And it really reminded me, this sea glass hunting, of thriving in this current environment. And pretty much what it is first of all, don't turn your back on the ocean. You can turn away from it, but you always need to be aware because the waves are coming in and every so often there's one a bit bigger than the others. And if you're not being aware, you end up with your shoes full of water. But what I've also noticed when I'm sea glass hunting is that my the ocean will work in a way to direct me towards the sea glass. So if I'm walking along with my head down looking, etc., and a wave is coming in and it forces me up the beach, guaranteed I will find a piece of glass further up the beach where I wouldn't have actually looked if I'd stayed on that same track. And very similar, what I've found is that when I find a piece of glass that is not quite done enough, in other words, its edges are still a bit sharp, and I throw it back, literally within paces, I will find the most beautiful piece of glass. So, what I'm taking away from that is to go with the ebb and flow of life at the moment. Don't try and fight it. Don't try and hang on to something that is not yours to have at that time. I'll always throw it back, and then I get presented with a lovely, gorgeous piece. So this is what I wanted to impart in regards to that. With the sea glass hunting, is go with the ebb and flow. If you need to change direction and flex and go this way, you will be rewarded. If you let go of something that is not serving you, just put it away. You will be rewarded. It's those of us that are flexible that will thrive going forward. And this is very much about observing but not absorbing. So, where do I want to go with this reading? I have no idea because my guides grab me, as I say, by the scruff of the neck and take me in certain directions when they want me to have a look at something. Now, what really grabbed my attention over the weekend, so I'm just going to say we're heading into Barbault's basket, Barbault basket. Not heading, it's forming today, starting to form today, and I believe will last for several months as it goes through these evolutions. And it's pretty much the planets lining up in a format in the astrology that they have not done so for 6,000 years. Now, depending on whether you follow the Western or Vedic astrology, you'll notice that the planets, most of them are either in 4 degrees in the signs, which is amazing because 4 is the 4 points of the compass, the 4 elements of the zodiac: water, air, fire, and earth, and very much about uh, very much spiritual based. But also, if you follow Vedic astrology, they are actually lining up at 1 degree, and 1 is about new, something significantly new coming forward. Now, I don't know where I'm going with this, but I'm going to read on something a little bit different, and I'm going to use the Runic Tarot. I know it's a very dark deck, but I'm also got what cards do you want me to use? Okay, I'm just going to scoot over here and grab my Around the World Oracle deck that one of my gorgeous viewers, she sells them on Etsy, and she sent me the deck. Now, I don't know why this has caught my attention, but as I say, when my guides grab me by the scruff of the neck, I have to actually read on something. And what is it? It's about the Zong, Z-O-N-G. Now, what is the Zong, you ask? It is a British slave ship that, now there was a really, for whatever reason, I caught the, it's a ABC, Australian Broadcasting Corporation. They're doing a documentary about the stuff the British stole, and I caught yesterday, I think it was. They did a episode on the Zong. And for some reason, I could not turn away. And my guides were like, you need to watch this. And it was incredibly fascinating. And I don't know how it's going to relate to whatever needs to come out today. So the Zong, let me put it this way. With the slave trade to the Caribbean, if you started in the UK and in the Great Britain, the slave ships used to travel down to what is now known as Ghana. It was known as the Golden Coast or Gold Coast or something at that stage. Travel down to Ghana, exchange copper, like they're almost like talks, but they're bracelets. There is mandolins. Are they called mandolins? Something like that. They used to exchange those to the slave traders in Africa, pick up the slaves. They used to travel to Jamaica, sell the slaves, pick up a load of sugar that was produced using slave labour, and take the sugar back to the United Kingdom. And it was known as the Golden Triangle. Hate that term, but anyhow, how about we call it the human trafficking triangle? So the Zong itself was originally a Dutch slave ship called the Zogé, and it was captured by the British and included a cargo of 244 enslaved African men, women, and children, and they were sold, and the ship was sold. So in those days, the humans that were trafficked were pretty much just considered cargo, no more, pretty much just a commodity. I was going to say like cattle, but I think cattle actually had more worth, or not so much more worth, but were more respected. So what happened? It was renamed the Zong, travelled to Ghana, picked up a load of 244 enslaved Africans, and if you have a look at how they were just shackled and laying out under the decks with pretty much no room to move, and they were on that ship in that form in, I believe, more than a year. Because what happened is they had an inexperienced captain. It was a new ship, and they screwed up badly, where they missed Jamaica, where they were headed. They were running out of water. They only had 4 days of water left, and they said it would take 10 to 14 days to reach Jamaica. So what did they do? They threw the slaves overboard. Not all of them, but pretty much the women and children. Still shackled together. This particular event, when it was discovered, so what happened is that the captain died, the logbook went missing. The owners of the ship tried to make an insurance claim on the loss of cargo, claiming that they had to be sacrificed for the greater good of the majority. However, I believe there was a first mate that made a statement during the court case and said that it had actually rained 4 days before and the ship was not short of water. So what had happened is pretty much the final death toll was 143 human beings, claiming the discrepancy of the deaths to famine and forcing, just horrific, horrific, horrific. I don't know where this reading's going to go. I just feel there's something here that is going to be reflective and brought to light again in the here and now. So apparently the insurance company, there was an original court case and the insurance company was found that it had to pay out £30 per enslaved person, being loss of cargo. But what happened then is a new fact emerged that prior to the murders, it rained to the third and final group of enslaved people that were tossed overboard. It rained and replenished the fresh water supplies. But what happened, so the owners never got their payout, but there was no subsequent trial for the murder of these people. It was, however, the first instance. There were a former enslaved writer and abolitionist, Ludau Ekanio, I'm sure I've pronounced that wrong, who read about this court case. He was a black man in the UK. He knew that he wouldn't have the clout to bring this story to public knowledge. And so therefore he teamed up with an English scholar and philanthropist called Granville Sharp. And together they started the movement that abolished the slave trade purely because of this massacre. Now, I don't know where I'm going with this. My guides are just, you got to get this story out, especially for people who don't know. But what happened with the abolishment of the slave trade is that in Jamaica, the slave owners were recompensed for the freeing of their slaves. Slaves weren't recompensed, but the owners were. So I don't know where I'm going with this, but my guides are like, you need to talk about this. And I've split the deck and I've got the Fool, a new beginning, a new journey. The universe is starting something new in regards to this. The Hierophant, the higher courts, the higher authorities. I don't know what it is, but I'm going to have a look. Sorry about that long lead up explanation. It was just something my guides were like, you need to look at this, you need to look at this. What do we need to know? Why are you, I've got Temperance again. So we've got this Fool card. As I split the deck, I've got Temperance, balance, moderation, again, new start, new beginning, something new coming forward. There's a new movement coming forward. I'm hearing Black Lives Matter, but it's more than that. The birth of, again, another major arcana as I split the deck. The Empress, the birth of this new beginning. The Wheel of Fortune is turning. And the birth of this new earth where there is abundance for all. Trust me, there is enough for everybody to live well. There's just not enough for the greedy few. but the Empress, the birth of this new world. So why are you telling me to use these cards, and why did you want me to share the story of the Zong? What is coming? What is... I mean, there's so much I could have read on. The FBI raid of Lindsay's house, the Orange Idiot's health, which is going in a disastrous direction, Blanche, Clayton, but they're telling me to look at this. This feels significant going forward. There's a lot of other really good readers that are looking at those other items. Laurie from The Way of Positive Change, Susan Lynn talks about them, Denise Knight, Tarot David from Tarot by the Bay. There's a lot of really, really good readers out there looking at these particular instances, but they want me to hone in on this. Why are you giving me this? Okay, this card popped out first, and then we've got the High Priestess. The challenge is going to be about talking about the bison in the room, the elephant in the room that cannot be denied. Secrets being brought forward, information being brought forward, history being learnt. Okay, because I must admit, I never knew about this ship until it crossed my path yesterday. Right. Oh, gosh, look at this. This card jumped out. A new beginning, a new emotional beginning, a new cleansing beginning, a new coming together. And you know what's on the bottom? The Ace of Pentacles. New beginning, something new. And the challenge is we need to talk about this history. We need to teach it. We need to bring it to attention and be aware of it, instead of sweeping it under the carpet and pretending it never happened. I know in the US there are Confederate states that like to teach in their history that slavery was good for the blacks because it brought them to the new world where they could become free people and blah, 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 blah. That's just whitewashing BS. So the challenge is this High Priestess energy. We are in this new beginning energy. The Queen of Cups, the energy we're stewing in, is revealing these stories, uncovering these stories, taking the lid off and talking about them. They're going to be highly emotive, like highly, highly emotive. But the only way to move forward is to acknowledge our past. And that goes for Australia too. Australia's got a horrific past for in regards to our First Nations people that is only now being advised, being publicated, being accepted as, well, yeah. In the past, the sun, exposure, shining a light, shining a bright light to be able to move forward, shining a bright light, exposing. And I can't shake that this particular story, because it was so pivotal, is in some way key to starting these conversations. Page of Swords, bringing forth the truth, starting to bring forward the truth, and standing defiantly with the truth, presenting it, this is what it is, cannot be denied. The immediate future, the Queen of Wands, sharing the stories. They're going to be inflammatory stories, they're going to be fire stories, but they're also going to be cleansing. Fire can be cleansing. Speaking of fire, my heart absolutely goes out to those in Canada. And I'm not quite sure how you're supposed to stop the smoke from passing the border, because the smoke does not care. We breathe all the same air. And if the US was any decent sort of neighbour, they would actually send assistance. But we know what this regime is about at the moment. And I'm hearing that these are going to be fiery, explosive stories, storytelling, but they will also be cleansing in the telling. It's about money that was made through slave trade, oligarchical money, old wealth. Thank you. Old wealth, legacy wealth that was made through raping and pillaging. 10 of Pentacles. So a lot of the old wealth in the US and in the UK, I suspect, and other countries came from slave trade, owning slaves, selling slaves, making their money off the back of slaves, getting compensated for having slaves. So this is the oligarchical intergenerational wealth. Internally, compassionate strength, the strength in the telling, the strength in the bringing forward, the strength in the embracing of this huge truth. That will bring about a new, the Empress, new beginning, birth of something new. Birth is always painful. Doesn't matter which way you give birth, it's all painful. But bringing forward new life, bringing forward new truth, new emotions, new stories, the wheel of fortune turning. Abundance for all. Right, the outcome, the 7 of Pentacles. There'll be certain that don't want the truth told because they personally profited from it. I'm being drawn to the Orange Idiots family, the brothel in Canada, I think it was. The not paying of contractors, which is pretty much slavery. Well, it is slavery, forcing people to do work for you with no return. Those that benefited, 7 of Pentacles, looking over their shoulder. This sort of truth here. They know the truth. They know how they got their money. They've got it sitting up on the wall there, like it's something to be proud of. But they've now got a target on their back, and they're looking over the shoulder as this new energy, Page of Pentacles, comes forward. Ace of Pentacles on the bottom, new energy. The youth, see it for what it is. The King of Pentacles, those that benefited and those that didn't. The 3 of Cups, 2 of Cups, 2 of Wands. So there's going to be some sort of celebration here, an agreement that's come to, and a plan that needs to be instigated. The 9 of Swords, the nightmare, the choices, the world, ending a new beginning, end of a cycle, end of an era, new beginning. Got the Ace of Pentacles on the bottom, the 10 of Swords, planting the seed for this new beginning, the 2 of Swords, so what have we got? 2, 2, 2. A Hanged Man looking at things differently. The 8 of Swords. Legal action, perhaps. The Star of Hope and Healing. It's almost like the feeling I'm getting is that for whatever reason, there's going to be some sort of recompense to those that can trace their lineage back to slaves. It's almost like when the oligarchs, the parasitic carpetbaggers, let me put it that way, go down, their money is seized. There's going to be some sort of recompense fund, but it's part of a process. Is that what I'm getting? Let's have a look. Why are you pointing this out? The first step is to learn the history. Spread it far and wide, the history. The tower. The gold that they're sitting on. The King of Cups and the King of Pentacles. Diplomatic negotiations to do with these parasitic carpetbaggers? Or is it when the parasitic carpetbaggers go down, then I don't know what you would call it in the US or anywhere else where there's been slaves, part of this slave trade. We would call it here, we'd probably call it a royal commission that then comes out with recommendations to compensate. And there was recently in Australia, I don't know how successful it was, to compensate those who were forced to work for landowners, Indigenous Australians, First Nations Australians, and didn't receive the pay that they were meant to. It was kept by the government. It feels like there's going to be some sort of commission where there is a negotiation that happens. Okay, I'm going to move to the why are you... Because when my guides tell me to look at something, I don't know why they tell me. They were yelling at me about the Pandora Papers the other day, and I looked it up today and I saw there's been some recent movement with the Pandora Papers. Why are you talking to me about the Zong? What do we need to know? What is this knowledge going to, this shift into this new energy going to bring forward? What do you need to, why are you, okay, come on. Whoops, too far. Can't see the cards if I take it down too far. Luck and blessing. Concentration attracts the luck factor. Violets. Why have you given me that card? Go with the flow. That's what I was telling you right at the start. Everything is temporary. Emotions, thoughts, people and scenery. Do not become attached. Just flow with it. But concentration attracts. Go with the flow. And strength and perseverance. So do not judge me by my successes. Judge me by how many times I fell down and got back up again. Nelson Mandela. Judge me by how many times I fell down and got back up again. And as long as you get back up one more time than you fall down, you are successful. Patience. Patience is bitter, but the fruit is sweet. There is enlightenment that is underway. The Stone Age didn't end because it ran out of stones. This is change. This is big change, but be prepared to just go with the flow and keep persevering. Get back up. The Stone Age didn't end because it ran out of stones. And healing on the bottom. All healing is first a healing of the heart that comes from knowledge, the tree of knowledge, the longevity and knowledge. Endurance is the most difficult discipline, but it's the ones who endure that the final victory becomes. Can't read that's in the final victory comes. Knowledge. And that's what my guides were talking about. We need to know these stories. We need to share these stories. And it is part of this healing. It is patience, because enlightenment is coming and it is bringing change. Go with the flow, persevere. But it's also a fish that goes in the flow. Okay? Wow. I don't know what form compensation is going to come. May not be financial. It may even just be acknowledgement, which is the start, but it might be. Might be financial. This one wouldn't go back in again. Gratitude. Gratitude is riches. Complaint is poverty. Gratitude. I don't know what form recompense is going to come in, but the first step is knowledge and acknowledgement. And for some reason, they're pointing me and you at the story of the Zong. So I'm going to leave that there. It just feels really important, that message. The message of knowledge, acknowledgement, confronting, which is going to be difficult, sharing, awareness, and acceptance. Now, not acceptance as in lie down and just accept it. Why are you giving me the word acceptance? Because it seems such an insipid word. Because once there is acknowledgement, then we can move on. And only then. Wow. Okay, I'm going to leave that there. Thank you for joining me. Love to you all. Take care. Bye-bye.